Hello YouTube viewers, before I get started with this video, I just want to put a shot of this up. This is the 14K gold that I'll be refining in this video. It's had all the stones and steel springs removed. It's been cleaned up and ready to be refined. Okay, this is a page out of Refining Precious Metals Waste by C.M. Hoke. It's page 52, called Refining Precious Metals Waste, Melting the Material into a Button. Quotation. Here's the paragraph we want to look at. It says, "You will recall when 6K gold is treated with nitric acid, it promptly goes to pieces, the silver and copper dissolving, and the gold remaining as a dark powder. This gold powder, after thorough treatment with nitric acid, is frequently of high purity. Many shops therefore make it a practice to melt up all their gold scrap, adding enough other metal to reduce the gold content to 25% or less, that is, to 6K or lower." This is page 53 of the same book. Over here it says, "The practice of making a button that is 1/4 gold is called quartation or inquartation, and has been employed for many years in assaying and refining. If you have doubts as to the fineness of the original material, add more silver or copper rather than less. This is the only thing that I disagree with. If you add too much silver, what will happen is the gold will crumble into a powder, or worse yet, it will go into a colloidal state that suspends in the solution, passes right through a filter paper. So I always tend to add a little bit less silver or copper rather than more." Alright, what I have here is some carat scrap. I'm going to refine it, beginning with inquartation of the carat gold. I'm going to be adding some sterling silver to it. This is all 14K gold that I've already cleaned up. All the metal springs and all the other non-gold items have been taken out. I've got 55.7 grams. I'm using this formula right here to determine how much carat or how much sterling silver to add. And what I've come up with is 70.4 grams of sterling. I have that all pre-weighed right here. So I've got 55.7 grams of 14K in there. Zero this out, add the 70.4 grams of sterling silver to it. Got 70.5 grams of sterling silver. Alright, now what we want to do is take the metal out to the melt table out here. And we'll go ahead and start melting this up. And going to make an alloy of 6K gold out of it. In this segment of video, I'm using an oxyacetylene cutting torch head to melt the sterling silver and 14K gold in a melt dish there. And in a moment you'll see me put a graphite rod in there, and I stir it for probably 35 or 40 seconds to make sure that I have a nice homogenized alloy there. This is 4 times normal speed. In this shot, I've got the camera back down to normal speed. I'm pouring the gold alloy into a metal container of tap water there. A plastic or glass container can't be used here because the metal stays molten as it hits the bottom of that container for just a few seconds. So if you used metal or glass, the glass might break, or the plastic would melt through and all your water would drain out. That's tap water in a metal container. pour the water out and gather up the gold flakes in a beaker. Treat this with hot dilute nitric acid. Rinse the gold with some distilled water. Get all the dissolved chlorides off of it. Okay, the unquarted gold has been sitting in tap water, so I used distilled water here to rinse all that tap water off of it. We're going to be putting nitric acid in there, forming silver nitrate, and we want to make sure all the chlorine's rinsed off of that gold. Otherwise, we'll form silver chloride, and that's something we want to avoid. There we go. That's our gold flakes we're going to treat with hot dilute nitric acid. Okay, this is our unquarted gold in a beaker here, 1 liter beaker. I've got some used dilute nitric acid. And what I'm going to do is go ahead and put the dilute nitric acid. This is from a previous refining when I did the last hot dilute nitric treatment. There's still some active or free nitric in here, so I'm going to use this to dissolve out the base metals and silver out of this unquarted gold here. Put it on some heat, just above low. It's been about 40 minutes since I added this first dose of dilute nitric acid. What I'm going to do is go ahead and pour this off into this jar right here. This jar is full of silver solution, which is what will be in this solution. I'm just going to pour this off. Rinse it out right quick with some distilled water. Got to use distilled water here because we're dealing with dissolved silver. Tap water would form silver chloride. That's something we want to try to avoid. Okay, I'll put it back on the heat. Now I'm going to add some more dilute nitric acid here. I'm adding about 200 ml at a time of this dilute nitric acid. Cover back on, got the heat on medium, and this is dilute nitric acid treatment number 2. This is nitric treatment number 2, and I'm going to go ahead and pour this off now and add some fresh nitric acid. Notice how our pieces of gold are staying in large chunks. That's what we want to see. We don't want that gold crumbling into pieces or into a powder. Then it becomes very difficult to separate this solution that I'm pouring off from the gold. It turns into a powder. It'll pour off with the dilute nitric acid treatments, and that's what we don't want to see. This will be nitric acid treatment number 3. Okay, we're done with the 3rd nitric acid boil. It's been boiling for about an hour now. I'm going to pour this off, rinse out the pieces of gold real good with some distilled water. See how the brown or the gold looks real brown, and it's staying together in large pieces. That's what we want to see. We'll rinse it real good here with some distilled water until all the color's gone out of there. Oh yeah, it looks real real good. That'll be some real pure gold right there. All by itself, that'd be high purity gold, probably 992 to 998. But I'm going to take this all the way down and refine it with aqua regia. So, one more rinse here. Actually, I'm going to go ahead and do another little bit of a straight nitric boil here. Distilled water and an equal amount of nitric acid. And we'll just let that come to a boil. And what will happen is that solution should stay crystal clear. That means all of our silver and all the other metals have been removed from that gold. Let this boil here for about 20 minutes, 30 minutes or so. This will be our fourth hot dilute nitric acid boil. This is our fourth dilute nitric acid boil. The solution is just a pale blue color, which is what we want to see. That means all of the silver, all of the copper, and other base metals have been completely removed, leaving behind nearly pure gold. What I'm going to do now is take the hot nitric acid solution and I'm going to pour it in this jug here. I'm going to save it for the next time I refine a batch of karat gold, because this is still nitric acid that will still dissolve silver and other base metals. So this will be saved right here and used to refine another batch of inquarted gold later on down the road. Now what I'll do is I'll rinse it real good here with some distilled water. So now what I'm going to do, put this back on the heat, turn the heat down a little bit, cover this back up, cover this up, and now I'm going to add some hydrochloric acid, which is muriatic acid. They're one and the same. I'm just going to add about 150 ml of hydrochloric acid here. And you'll see the gold immediately begin to react from the residual nitric acid that's already in there. Before I go any further, I'm going to go ahead and add some concentrated sulfuric acid here, about 1 ml or so. And what this is for is that will precipitate out any lead that might be in there. It hurts nothing. It's done as a precaution, so if there is any lead in there, the sulfuric acid will combine with it, form lead sulfate, and then it can be easily 100% filtered out of the gold solution. Here I have a pipette, 3 ml. What I'm going to do is I've got some concentrated nitric acid here, and I'm going to slowly start adding concentrated nitric acid to the gold and hydrochloric acid solution. There's about 2.5 ml. It's 2.5 ml of concentrated nitric acid. Got 2.5 more ml of concentrated nitric acid. Gonna go ahead and add that in now. So I've got a total of 5 in there now. I've got another 3 ml here. I'm gonna go ahead and put that in. That'll be 8 ml total. And that might just well do it for all the nitric acid I need to dissolve that 1 troy ounce of gold. Got 8 ml in there now. Notice here that I did not pre-mix the aqua regia. Instead, I'm adding small doses of nitric acid to form aqua regia in the beaker to dissolve the gold. This is known as incremental nitric acid dosing. I can carefully control the amount of nitric acid going into the reaction, using just enough to just dissolve the gold, and I won't have any excess nitric to deal with. Add another 2.5 ml here. I've got 150 ml of hydrochloric acid in there, about 10.5 ml of concentrated nitric acid. Just got a few crumbs left in the bottom of the beaker there. I'm going to add just a few drops of concentrated nitric acid here, see if I can get the rest of that to go in solution. Okay, what I've got here is 120 ounce pure gold dissolved in about 100 ml of hydrochloric acid, and I took 11 ml of nitric acid to get everything to go into solution. There's probably going to be a little bit of silver in here, so what I'm going to do, silver chloride is slightly soluble, so I'm going to go ahead and add some ice cubes here to try to cool the solution off. It's not as soluble. Silver chloride is not as soluble in a cold solution. So I'm going to try to cool the solution off here with some ice cubes so that we can push that silver chloride out and then filter it out in the next step. I've got the solution cooled down now. We got it at 14.4 Celsius, 58 degrees Fahrenheit. And what I'm going to do is go ahead and filter it now. I do see some silver chloride forming in the bottom of this jar here. I don't know if you can see that. That's because we added that ice and got it to push out of the solution. I've chilled the flask and the funnel as well. So now we're going to try to filter anything that's in this solution out. I'm using a #1 filter paper here. Here's a shot of the filter. You can see there's some stuff that got filtered out. I've got the stuff filtered out of the solution. I'm going to take this and transfer it into the beaker up here now. And what we'll do is pour this. I've cleaned the beaker out. It's the same beaker we used earlier, but I took it in and rinsed it out real good. Get any kind of junk that might be in there out for this next step. Now I'm going to precipitate the gold with some sodium metabisulfite. As soon as I add this, the gold will come right out of solution and settle down at the bottom there as a brown powder. Notice I'm not adding any kind of chemicals to neutralize excess acid, because by dosing the solution with small increments of nitric acid, there is no excess nitric acid to remove. Saves a lot of time when you go to precipitate the gold. The gold has been allowed to settle now for about 20-25 minutes. What I'm going to do now is go ahead and pour this solution off into my waste container here. This is my temporary stock pot, and because my other stock pot's down there settling, so I can refine it here. Just pour this waste solution off into my containers. A little bit of gold's going to go over with it, but that's okay, because I'll recover this later on. And now what I'll do is go ahead and set up a funnel and do a filtration. Now I'm going to collect the gold powder here in a filter paper. Pour it right in. Alright, it's filtered out. I'm going to go ahead and rinse it with a little bit of hydrochloric acid here. Now what I'll do is put the gold back into this same beaker that I took it out of. It's been rinsed out, cleaned out. And I'm going to go ahead and put the gold and the filter paper right back into this same beaker. Just like that. I'm going to add about 150 ml of hydrochloric acid here. Okay, this second refining will clean it up real nice. Just like I did last time, I'm going to add a little bit of sulfuric acid here to precipitate out any lead that may have made it this far. Now I'm going to start adding small doses of nitric to dissolve it like we did before. There's 3 ml. There's another 3 ml. That's about 3 ml more. So I've got 9 ml of concentrated nitric acid in. Alright, the gold solution has been dissolved the second time. I've already cooled it down, chilled it with some ice, and I'm going to go ahead and pour it through a filter paper again. Filter it this second time. The filter paper, as you can see, is completely disintegrated. Go ahead and filter this now. Go ahead and pour the gold solution into the beaker up here, and then we'll precipitate it a second time. And precipitate the pure gold powder second time here. Remember, I used incremental nitrate dosing here, so there's no excess nitrate to neutralize, so I'm not adding anything for that. It's one of the advantages of using incremental nitric acid dosing. There's no nitric acid to remove when you go to precipitate the gold. I've allowed this gold to settle now for about an hour and a half. I had to go run an errand, but as you can see, it's got that nice caramel color. It's pretty color that we want to see. The liquid sitting over the top of the gold is crystal clear, and that means this is going to be very high purity gold. So now what we're going to do is we're going to set up a filtration funnel for it. Get the gold into a filter paper and get it into a melt dish and melt it into a bar. This is the waste liquid I'm pouring off. I'll save this and add it to my stock pot once I get my stock pot up and running again. Okay, I've got a filter set up here. We'll go ahead and get the gold into the filter, and then we'll get it into a melt dish and melt it up into a bar. Here I have some hydrochloric acid. And what I'm going to do is pour a little bit over it, pour a little of it over the gold, and rinse the pure gold with some hydrochloric acid. Filter with the gold in it into my clean melt dish down here. Just like that. Filter and all goes right on in the melt dish. Now I'm going to put it down here on my melt table. We're going to go ahead and melt this up into a nice bar. And here's our little loaf of pure gold. We're going to weigh it now, see how close we got to 1 troy ounce. Looks like it's about 31.0. It's just shy of a troy ounce. Just a little bit under, about 31.0 grams. That's 0.995 troy ounces. I missed it by just a touch there. So it's a little underweight from a troy ounce, but that's okay. We'll stamp it as such. And I'll go ahead and throw this on my eBay store, and we'll put this up for bids. Starting bid will be 99 cents. Alright, these are 16th inch metal stamps. I'm going to stamp the bar now. They're real small, as you can see. It's going to be hard to get this thing lined up straight, but here we go. Stamp the bar now. finished bar. Try to light it up so you can see the writing on it. It's kind of hard to see the writing. But what it says there is it's got 999 fine gold, 31 grams, and then Sreetips stamped right here. And then down here it says 0.995 OZT, which is troy ounces. 0.995 troy ounces. So that's the final product. Okay, this will conclude the gold refining video where I refined 14K scrap gold jewelry into a 999 fine gold bar. Here's the bar. You watched me refine it. I've stamped some information on there. I put 999 fine gold, 31 grams. My YouTube username, Sreetips, and then the troy ounces, 0.995 OZT, which stands for troy ounces. I'm going to put this on my eBay store. My eBay store is called Bafflous, B-A-F-E-L-O-U-S. We're going to put this up for bid. Starting bid will be 99 cents and just let it go for wherever it settles. While you're on the store, you can look at some of my other jewelry items that I have for sale. I work in a jewelry repair shop. I fix those things up, make them look perfect. They're like brand new pieces. When I list them on my store, I screen them real good. And I don't put nothing on it. It's trashy. It's all good stuff at about 1/3 to 1/2 of the price of what you'd pay at a retail jeweler's. So take a look at that while you're on there. You can support me, help me make more refining videos, and get something in return by placing a bid on my gold bar here or buying a piece of the jewelry that I have listed. This will conclude the video. Thanks for watching.